I was there. I don't have to listen to it.
When you live in a beach resort, it's easy to forget whether you are playing or working. On each week's show, we settle in with a cocktail and try to figure out if there is a difference. This is Day Drinking on Delmarva.
I am Todd from GoodCleanFunLife.com.
And I am Tony Russo, no relation, and you're listening to Day Drinking on Delmarva.
It's like this old house, but for booze.
And we don't go anywhere.
And we stay put.
And we stay put. All sorts of stuff to get to this week. We're going to start off, though, by talking about what we're drinking. This show is sponsored by Warlock by Southern Tier Brewing Company. And when I say sponsored, that means that we drink it first, so we're a little less inhibited while we're talking. Although Warlock is perfectly welcome to send us cash.
Well, and we are not yet the beer influencers.
We're not yet the beer influencers that I mean, I've never going to. Actually, I'm kind of a beer influencer, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
I want to talk about Warlock only because I've never had it before. It's a pumpkin beer, and I have usually one pumpkin beer a year, so this is it. So Pumpkin is by Southern Tier, and it's one of the most popular pumpkin beers on the planet. I sent my brother, who's in the beer business, a picture of a cooler with Pumpkin in it back in late July or early August.
Oh, you mean like a cooler at a store?
Yes. And they were almost out. So it's just one of the things that people tend to do is I actually have a blog post that I have set to post about this time every year.
Yeah. That
the headline is something like, "We're tired of hearing you complain about pumpkin beers." Yeah. So if you don't like that pumpkin beers are out in August or September, then don't drink them.
Right.
There's no law.
Right. It goes right along with your philosophy of drink what you like and be
Drink
happy.
what you like and be happy. But I did, I wanted to talk about, I wanted to make fun of pumpkin beer or make fun of people who make fun of pumpkin beer. And I'd never had this before, so that's why I grabbed it.
So you picked it up.
Yeah,
it's quite tasty. Imperial stout, nice and stouty.
Yes, way more stouty than pumpkin-y.
Way more charcoal notes than pumpkin notes.
Yes,
which is weird because pumpkin is a spice.
Well, pumpkin is a combination of spices and a texture, usually. Yeah. Like, I don't know how many people can tell the difference between a sweet potato pie and a pumpkin pie.
That's a good point.
I mean, I don't know if I can, but I didn't grow up that way.
We should have pie.
And all Todd can think is, why don't we have pie?
But this is very tasty.
And it's not pumpkin-y. If you're a person who doesn't like pumpkin beer,
I do not.
This is the one for you, because when I tell you it tastes like pumpkin, you're like, yes, it totally does. Yeah. But you're not, it's not. A lot of them are grindingly sweet. Even pumpkin is very, very, very heady. This doesn't have the big aroma that pumpkin beers tend to have.
Although truthfully, I'm probably like this with most imperial stouts. It's a 1 or 2.
Yeah, it's boozy too.
Yeah. 8.6%.
And Todd's wife Natalie was here, and I got a 4-pack because that's how they come.
Right.
And she came by and she figured it was like the 2 guys 4 beers, and I'm like, no, go ahead and take one.
Yes.
And I'll bet that other bottle's still here when I come back next week.
Well, and we are going to be having, or we have always had a fall beer party. Mm-hmm. And it kind of came about a number of years ago because of how many different
fall beers there
are out there. And we stopped calling, I'm not a huge fan of the pumpkin beers in general, but it's good to have one. It's good to try. It's good to.
You can say you had one. It's kind of like candy corn, which is also coming out this month. It's like, oh, yep, candy corn still sucks.
Yeah. This is still terrible.
It is still awful.
Although maybe it is nice to have it after September 1st.
Yes.
Right. And not discrediting anybody who wants to drink it on August 13th, which is my birthday.
Happy birthday. No, but like the leaves have changed. The occasional leaf has kind of changed.
Right.
There's some yellow in the trees.
Yeah. Well, and it's an interesting time of year because you got a little bit, it's like a dual personality.
Right.
You have that fall, like football is starting, but you're still getting in some beach days down here.
Yeah, I nearly had a fire this week in the house because we had a quote cold snap when the hurricane, what was left over the hurricane came through. Mm-hmm. It got down to 55 and it was damp.
Pleasant.
It was beautiful, and I'm like, I'd like to have a fire, but I didn't want to haul the wood, so. But next we're going to talk about one cool thing. But before we get to that, this is going to be our standing commercial. If you are day drinking on Delmarva or anywhere, but mostly on Delmarva, because that's really what we're talking about, make sure you tag us on Instagram. How can they do that?
They can go to @daydrinking on Delmarva on Instagram, and and shoot us over what your flavor of the week or day is,
and we'll be happy to. I'm sorry, I'm a liar. Todd will be happy to retweet it. And this will kind of bring us into we're going to talk about influencers in a little bit. I can't figure out how to retweet something on Instagram, so I don't ever do it.
Well, first of all, it's on Instagram, so it's technically not retweeting.
It's reposting.
It's regramming.
Regramming? That can't be the word.
Sure. What else would it be?
Why would I just be hearing that? People say, please retweet this. What do they say on Instagram? Please regram this?
Yes.
You're a liar.
Yeah. I'm an influencer.
You are an influencer. You are in charge of the words. And but before we get to today's topic, I do want to talk about one cool thing. Mm-hmm. All sorts of we took 2 incidental weeks off, but we're back now, and lots of stuff happened. I got rid of all my children since we last spoke. Yes, I tweeted something the other day. It was something like, if you're thinking of dropping by, just so you know, I'm not wearing clothes. The police came to my house the other day. They had found my...
Is that your one cool thing?
Yeah,
the police came to my house.
But they had found my license plate, and he's like, they knock like police do. Mm-hmm. And he just come. It's 11 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's daytime. Right. It's the middle of the day.
Right.
And I just kind of come stumbling out, and my hair is sticking up, and I'm wearing a robe. And it's like...
that you're just putting on.
Right, exactly. I had to find my robe to answer the door. I was hoping they'd go away. Right. And I'm like, that cop is sure I beat my wife. He's sure I'm drunk. And he's sure I beat my wife. Because when he knocks on doors and fat, crazy old men come stumbling to the door, cinching up their robes,
right.
That means something bad happens at that house.
Yeah. Better keep an eye on this one, Jim.
Well, they're exhausted. They're as exhausted with me as I have an ongoing feud with the Delmar Police Department that only I know about.
Do you have a Maryland case search history?
Like if you look me up?
Yeah.
I do not know. I got arrested in Baltimore once for driving without a license.
Yeah.
Or driving on suspended or revoked or something like that. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's the only time I got arrested and it stuck.
Yeah. And you couldn't talk your way out of it.
Well, yeah, I got a check kiting charge once that I beat.
I beat the rap.
I beat my check kiting rap. That's 100% true. But we'll tell that story another time. Let's get to your one cool thing first.
My one cool thing it goes along with what I was saying about there being a split personality in this time of year. It is September. And the greatest thing about September is you have leaves literally falling outside the window right now. But also, we did a employee party with the Starbird and Bethany Blues and a couple other restaurants in the group out at Jungle Gyms, which is the water park up in the Rehoboth Lewis area. And it was super cool because all of the management and ownership definitely, do things right. Mm-hmm. Catered by Big Fish, DJ, all the beers you could drink. But it was neat going into, I think the fun part was going into the water park. And the first thing I said is like, oh, this is great. There's not 100 screaming asshole kids running around. Of course, there were some, staff children and stuff. It was,
Right.
who were there. But it was almost like, post-apocalyptic. There was
Having the place to yourself.
how empty it was. And it was a big crowd that was there. A couple of the slides were open. We're going down the slides, drinking beers. It was so much fun.
Well, I didn't grow up far from Great Adventure when I was a kid. That's when I was growing up.
Right.
In case you missed the beginning of the sentence. And we would go. We would get season passes, and like we would go at like 5:00 on a Tuesday afternoon in late August or early September and have the place to ourselves. And then the same thing was because I don't think they closed until like October or something. Yeah. And you could go and you'd be like, this is what it must be like to be Michael Jackson. Without the questionable child rate.
Without the Macaulay Culkin.
Right.
But, and that is, we talk about it a lot. That is like the little secret that's not so much a secret, but just people don't have the opportunity to take advantage of, is the slowdown after the season and how the weather is good, if not better, than summer. And it's, it was awesome. So I'm calling it September sunburn. Like, that's a cool thing.
That is a cool thing. So my one cool thing is I bought a boat. I spent $8 for it at the Goodwill. It is a remote control boat.
$8.
I've never had a remote control thing. My mother wasn't. I think we may have had a couple as kids, but we were really rambunctious, and if we had them, they broke immediately. I don't remember ever owning one.
Right.
But I have a pond in my backyard, which in episode 2 I think talked about too long, and I never cut out. So I'm not gonna go back.
If you made it past episode 2,
if you're still listening, I still have the pond. I still have the fish. I still have a lot to say about both of them. But we were in the Goodwill, and I saw it, and I just wanted it. Yeah. And so I spent the $8. I said I'm going to bet $8 that this works.
Right.
Because when you buy electronics from Goodwill, it's a wager, and it does. And now I see why people aren't really into, like, people are either very into or not into at all remote control. So it takes 1 to 3 hours to charge the battery, and you get about 20 minutes of playtime out of it.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
You have to really plan.
Well, you need 8 of them to play with it for 3 hours while they were all charging. But it was really pleasant because I have obstacles in my pond, and the pond is maybe 15 feet long and maybe 6 feet wide, and I just sit out in the back. I got a good scotch. I got a decent cigar.
You're in a fedora cap and a bathrobe.
I was wearing my white fedora. I didn't have a bathrobe on. I actually put on clothes. I didn't have a bathrobe on.
Yeah.
Because I found out, not the hard way, it just occurred to me the hard way, that if you wear your robe while you're smoking a cigar...
Ooh, yeah, that makes sense.
You gotta wash it.
So you're wearing a wife beater.
It's just t-shirt, hat, cigar, scotch, tooling around the pond with my yellow speedboat.
If you're not a mob boss of Del Mar, I don't know what.
Well, and what's special about that is just how pathetic, like, the boat is maybe 8 inches long.
Oh, really?
It's a largish boat.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really fit in the pond. It's for lakes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I could never get it up to full speed because by the time it gets to full speed, it's back out in the yard.
Yeah.
But it's still a great way to amuse yourself. As I'm getting more and more disgusted with Del Mar, I'm kind of turning into like the Howard Hughes of Del Mar.
Yeah,
that's what I'd be happy to go by.
I get happy to go by.
Yeah, because that's what I'm becoming very insular, losing my mind slowly. Mm-hmm. I got my hair cut today, and I wanted to talk briefly about it. I had a tantrum before the show, but now I'm not going to have a tantrum.
Right.
I challenge you to go to find a new hair cutter that's independent. So that means that it's not owned by It's not the hair cuttery or sports clips or anything like that. Mm-hmm. That has all the words in it spelled correctly. Because that number is really close to 0. I'm like, if I refuse to get my
today, gone tomorrow.
If I refuse to get my hair cut at a place that had a Z in it, it took me an hour to find a place. Like I said, arbitrarily, my barber was closed today for no good reason.
Right.
I hope everybody's okay, but I also kind of hope there's an emergency.
Right.
because it's Wednesday afternoon and I wanted a haircut.
Yeah.
But my hair was
really put you out.
Well, my hair was it was too long 6 weeks ago. Like, this is my fault. This isn't her fault. But I'm like, I gotta get it cut. And so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get it cut someplace that's not a hair cuttery and someplace that doesn't have a Z in it.
Right.
And I literally drove around for an hour.
Yeah.
I found 6 Z places.
That is a weird hill to die on.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's just, I thought it was funny at first.
Yeah.
Before I noticed how many Z's there were and K's, cut with a K. Yeah, we have Boulevard Cuts in Del Mar. It's BLVD.KUTZ. That's double points.
Triple word score.
Triple word score. So I got my hair cut. It looks awful.
It looks great.
And there's always next time.
Yeah.
But let's talk about influencers and influencing.
Yes. You love influencers. We are influencers. We have a podcast by definition.
No. So they're all the things that I don't. There was a great retweet by Helen Zaltzman, who I like to follow on Twitter. She's a podcaster from England. She does The Illusionist with an A podcast. It's a great show. Mm-hmm. And she retweeted this woman who said, I kind of feel bad for podcasters for influencers who spend a fortune to buy fake followers.
Oh, yeah.
So they can afford to go on a vacation and Photoshop themselves enjoying a tea for their 3 actual Instagram followers to buy.
Right.
And
that 3 actual.
When you say the thing, I don't like content creator. We've had that discussion.
Right.
An influencer, I feel, is worse because it's like you're a walking commercial. Mm-hmm. And you're not. I mean, you are, but for me, it's the opposite. Like if I'm like, oh, look at that person, I'm influenced to never enjoy that product now because I don't want to be in that club.
I think there is the level of authenticity that at some point goes out the window. So I would argue and have made the point, Natalie has influence. Mm-hmm. So her person, like as part of Good Clean Fun and the photos that she takes and she puts stuff out there mm-hmm. and never in the intent of, solely getting, likes, follows, comments, but, honing her craft and putting stuff out there and that's and has gotten feedback as, a little bit of proof that it has an influence on people.
Right. But that's, I think that's very different from. I think that's very different from influencers. So, like Stephen King is an influencer because lots of turns of phrases that he uses, people like to use now.
Right.
That's not. But it would be dumb to say that Stephen King was an influencer. Right. Right.
You would never say that.
No one would ever say that. He wouldn't say that.
And that goes to the content creator thing.
Same thing. I make stuff.
Right.
I hope you like it. I hope someone pays me for it sometime.
Well, and it's pretty obvious that we've been making stuff for a long time,
right?
Without the motivation to keep doing it because people are asking for it because nobody's asking for it.
But beyond that, it's we're not trying to do anything except what we want to do. Like right. One of the main reasons we're not influencers is because asshole here with the big mouth can't be trusted.
Like no one would sponsor us.
Todd would be like, Todd's like, oh, we could have advertisers. You would just have to say nice things all the time, and right. It's just I'm not capable of it. It would be wrong for me to take someone's money.
Right.
I have a podcast where I do commercials. I actually got a nasty letter. I did a commercial for an online casino type place. It's called
and this is for your This Is War podcast, right, which is a huge podcast.
Right. It's called MyBookie, and go to MyBookie and type war 80, I think, for I don't know, double your money or something like that. But MyBookie. People were like, that's just, it's vicious. You're essentially
gambling
they're like,
is bad.
Why aren't you also advertising booze and oxycodone?
Right.
And so in my response, I said, because booze hasn't called.
I'm still waiting.
If you know anybody at Jack Daniels, please. But that's so.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, you had an account with like Jack Honey, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's disgusting. Like they're not gonna pay me. They'll pay you because you don't mind it,
right?
And also you're good at taking pictures. Like I can say Jack Honey, it's better than no alcohol. It's better than water. Bathtub gin, right? But and so anyway, in my response to him, I said pretty much this. I'm like, I do gamble. I do drink. I'm a degenerate. Like, sorry.
Yeah.
You know, the difference, of course, is Codon, Oxy. They didn't advertise on one. I said, as far as I know, Oxy's never advertised on one podcast.
Yeah.
And it's already destroyed lives. I said, podcasting is not the problem. But that's like, so there are commercials, right? Mm-hmm. I don't love commercials, but I understand them. Right. The commercials pay the bills.
It's an unspoken contract.
Like
they're giving you stuff so that you can watch football and
not have
to be there.
And then there are two things. Increasingly, people are like my boss's podcast. He has a pay and a not pay, and he does very well. People are like, I'll pay $5 a month to never hear a commercial.
Right.
That is wonderful. Right. If you did great work, if you can get it. And from my perspective, it's. I had one of my bosses tell me, because I've always, in the newspaper business and in the internet writing business and stuff like that, I complained. I can't sell. I complain about advertisers because I'm a shitty salesperson.
Yeah.
We have to be honest about that.
Yes.
Like, I don't have the courage to ask for money, so it's stupid to ask for money.
Right.
But what this person told me was that you can be a good salesperson. One, I can't. One could be a good salesperson if you just realize that you are helping them. Like, they're not giving you money for free.
Right.
They're giving you money because they believe that you can help them reach people they otherwise might not reach.
Right.
And I agree with and I understand that.
Right.
And that is fine. And that is different from trying to be an influencer where you're kind of developing a persona and trying to get people to say, oh, if I buy that oxycodone, I'll be like that doctor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that is where the rub has been, and there's been pushback on it, where now if you're being paid for a post on Instagram, you have to hashtag ad or something like that. So that, because, and that's what I mean about the contract between a commercial and, like, you kind of, you understand what's happening. I think people are smart, and I try to trust people to be smart. But if somebody has 10,000 followers because they're a comedian or a bikini model or something like that, and they're holding a product, and it could be anything. It could be this beer. And if they're holding that, and it's just like, oh man, I love sucking down some Warlock Imperial Pumpkin Stout, and they have just a number of followers, like there's this, it's like, do they really like it, or are they just doing it because turns out Southern Tier is floating them some money?
Well, I think that it doesn't matter a lot.
Right.
Only because I'm not influenced by the normal kind of influencers.
Well, but I think it's just that we're in this age where people don't know where the line is of being real and being, sold something.
Yes, but you're almost always, when you're on the internet, you are being sold to.
Yeah. So that's the evolution. It's
right.
Like,
it's if you are surprised that someone is paid to put something on the internet.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. Someone is paid. I put lots of stuff on the internet. I'm paid for a lot of what I put on the internet.
Right.
Sometimes I put stuff on the internet just for fun. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest. One of the reasons I get more away from Facebook and increasingly even from Twitter is that I'm not being paid to write on Facebook or on Twitter.
Right.
And I don't feel like I'm reaching the people who are interested in what I have to say on Facebook and on Twitter.
Right.
And so I just try to find, increasingly I'm worried about making better stuff, going back to like a pre-Facebook and Twitter approach to things where I'm like, I'm going to make this and somebody's going to find it. I'll eventually find a way to get somebody. And I still I'll still put it on Facebook and Twitter, but I don't make that same kind of effort as I maybe made before Facebook and Twitter were the only ways to reach people. Well,
it's interesting because this thought has been very prevalent and present recently. Coming to the end of summer, I had, you take, it's nice, school's back in, you're getting more into a routine, you're trying to get healthy. I did sober September for like all of 5 days. It's great, but I was kind of taking an evaluation of stuff, and you and I are of the generation pre-social media where we did make things just for the sake of making things.
Right.
And actually, I posed that question to the Facebook world and said, like, when's the last time you made something just for you? I remember being home on a snow day in the 12th grade and making a stop motion movie with my old G.I. Joe figure. Like, I did that, and a lot of people didn't, and it shows that they didn't. You know?
Yeah.
And I think there will be an evolution. They're talking about like getting rid of likes on Instagram and that sort of thing. But I do think it's one of those things. In this show specifically, if I make a list of like all the things I want to do, and on that list is create something for yourself, this show is that.
Totally it. Yes. It's the only reason that I still do it is because I really, really like it.
And you have to get out of the house at least once.
My wife said something to me yesterday. She's like, when was the last time you left? I'm like, I don't know.
She's like, look at you. You have a shirt on and everything.
This is the same shirt I've worn to the last 3 Toddcasts. I was curious whether you noticed it or not. Actually, I wasn't. I was worried that you might. Yeah. But given that you did it, I figured I'd say something. So just in case you're new to the show, I wear clothes like a costume. I come home, I'm naked at my house. So I come home and I hang up my clothes because I only wear them for like an hour at a time. This shirt has been laundered since the last time you've seen it, but it hasn't been laundered much this week, and it's probably the 3rd time I've worn it in the last week or so.
Perfect.
Beyond influencing people is sharing with them things that you like. And again, when I was responding to this person who would complain about the ad, it's precisely what I said. I said I turned down advertisers before, advertisers that I felt were gross or advertisers that I didn't necessarily believe in. I did do a men's health ad, but they sent me the copy, and I'm like, and I spoke with them, and I went to their website, and it seemed legit,
Right.
But they didn't make me try anything, know. And if you listen to my ads, you'll hear that it's always from experience.
Right.
And I love the idea that you can make proposition bets. I love proposition bets. I hate doing parlays because you always get screwed on parlays. And if you're not familiar, if you're listening, a proposition bet is Tom Brady will throw 6 touchdowns today, and the odds are 10-1 or something like that. Then you have something to root for. Like you can watch a Patriots game, which I normally wouldn't care about, and be like, hey, he's thrown 5 touchdowns. If he throws a 6th one, I get $200.
Right.
All of a sudden, I care very deeply about the Patriots game.
Right.
I think it's a fun way to watch sports if you're going to watch sports. And so I believe in it. And my disconnect with advertisers generally is that there's a lot of stuff I just don't believe in. I've written down a couple things that we'll talk about off air. But there are a couple examples that have come in that it's that I don't believe that I could reach their people. Like, I don't like them enough, so I don't know.
It's not going to come across as authentic.
Right. Did you get kicked out of college or did you get a degree?
I got a degree.
That's too bad. If you didn't get a degree, I found out this week that you and I, except didn't finish college, are the most common person in America.
What?
White dudes.
White dudes.
Middle class. didn't finish college, no degree, the most common demographic in the
really.
When you say the typical American, they're talking about you, but a little dumber.
Well, no wonder the Joe Rogan podcast is so popular.
We got to take that. We got to take it down a notch.
We need more fart jokes.
We need more fart jokes. I've never heard the Joe Rogan, only because it's 3 hours long, and I don't have that kind of time.
Yeah.
And I can't listen to things in the background. I've never been.
Nope. Me neither.
It's never been a skill of mine. I can watch a movie or not watch a movie.
Yeah.
My wife can just check out of the middle of a movie.
Like come in and out. And,
yeah. Not me. I'm in or I'm out.
Yeah.
And there's no middle ground for me. So as far as influencing or influencers.
So we should be influencers based on the fact that we are slightly smarter than the largest demographic.
Exactly. Well, the difficulty though is that I feel, and this is me being a salesperson, I feel like it's tainted. Like I am, broadly speaking, a beer influencer.
Yeah.
And all that means is that when someone needs to know something about beer, they call me.
Right.
And I don't mean like, I
that's,
don't have a hotline.
Yeah.
But
put up the beer light, the Tony beer light.
The local reporters, when they're doing we're doing a retrospective of the top 10 local beers, I'm one of the voices in that. You know, it's one of the.
You wrote I like to say you wrote the book on it.
I wrote 2 books, one on Maryland beer, one on Eastern Shore of Maryland beer, one on Delaware beer. So I'm conversant in beer.
Right.
And a couple weeks ago we talked about it on the show. They were nice enough and they asked me to do a little video and I'm like, yeah, I'll do the video, and I didn't get a nickel for it. You know, and I'm like, if I were a real influencer, I would have said, yes, that would be $500.
Right.
I'll come. You can have my whole day. I need more sit-ups, I think, to do $500 worth of video work. Voiceover work, I get pretty well paid for, but the video work, I get have a fucking salad, yeah. And so there's that kind of influence, but it would feel dirty for me to get. I can't ask, and I don't know why. Normal people ask, right?
So there's this one podcast I listened to who this guy really struggled on it, and because he has a pretty popular podcast, and didn't want to be beholden to anybody pulling money, or saying or saying that he can't do something or that sort of thing, because he wanted to be authentic. He wanted to be himself. Actually, he has this is Christopher Ryan. He's an author, and he has a episode that you might appreciate. Every so often, he just calls it Roma, which is ranting out my ass. But yeah, so like being concerned about, like, I want to put a good product out. I want to put it out to the people, but I also want to be able to, have the distribution and advertising and try to push it out to more people. And I think eventually he did go the Patreon route.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Patreon or with any of the. That's something that I think that's something that once we cross, I think once there are more of you listening, if anybody's out there dying to let us to pay us to do this, let us know. I like the Patreon model, and I like the sponsorship model. Like, this show is sponsored by, I don't know,
the Starboard.
I was going to say like the Helen Geddes Foundation or make something up completely. Right. This only because if I said something that was shitty about the Starboard earlier in this show, I didn't want to seem like I was mocking it. But yeah, so this show is sponsored by X, very NPR. Like, I like the NPR model best of all.
Right.
We are a company and we believe in what you're doing. Here's some money to keep doing it. You should tell people that we gave you money to keep doing it.
Right. And that's all we're asking for.
Right. And then people who like shows saying, hey, I like what you're doing. This is only because it's not that I can't be an influencer. It's that I couldn't be an influencer.
Yeah.
Right. It's possible, but I don't want what that comes with. And that's at the like, I would love to be more involved with the town of Del Mar. I just fucking hate the town. I'm like, we could do this and we could do that, and I'm like, yeah, but you'd have to talk to those people,
and
it
would take effort,
and it would take effort that wasn't satisfying.
Right.
I want to do what I want to do, and if that means I stay poor, I'm okay with that.
Right.
You know, but I would rather do what I want to do. I'd rather kind of be able to make my vision happen with, like within certain boundaries, like. You're an excellent boundary, right? I think we're good boundaries for one another.
Right.
I'm like, hey, let's do this. And you're like, oh, that's the worst thing I've ever heard. But again, you want it to be good. You don't want it to be for sale. You don't want it to be easier to sell.
Right.
You want it to be better.
Yes.
And when someone's saying, hey, when I say, hey, let's do this, and someone says, that will make it better, that will make it worse, then they've got my attention. Yeah. When I say, let's do this, and someone says, well, how are we going to sell it?
Right.
I'm like, well, I don't know if you know me, but that's not what I do.
Right.
Like, if you can figure out a way to sell it, you can give me half.
Yeah.
But I want to make something good, and I want the people who are helping me to make stuff just say, this will make it better, this will make it worse.
Yeah. And I think we've talked about this. We've talked about this before. About the show that we should just hire a salesperson and just let them get whatever they get. we need, as long as we can sit here and have a couple beers.
We need $30 a week, $10 for beer, $10 for hosting, $10 for lunch. I don't know what the third $10 is for. All right. Well, we are well past it. So thank you guys so much for listening. It's we were talking before the show. There are more of you listening to this show than listen to the last show, which is really gratifying. And thanks for hanging out with us through the. We had to run our first retro episode.
Right.
Fortunately, we do have 10 years worth of retro episodes to show. I called it On the Wagon.
Okay, yeah.
So retro episodes will always be called On the Wagon 1, On the Wagon Part 2, On the Wagon Part 3.
I like that.
So
I like that a lot.
Yeah,
actually.
It's not sponsored by any alcohol. This one is, as we said, was sponsored by Warlock. And I am all out of breath and things to say, so I got nothing else. How about you?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, until next time, remember that at the beach,
happy hours whenever you say it is.
Day Drinking on Delmarva with Todd DeHart and Tony Russo is produced weekly, mostly by dumb luck. Find them online at daydrinkingondelmarva.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll check back in with you next week.